I don't know if we're live or not. Welcome back to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And let's just take a minute to get present and take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold it for a few seconds. Feel your body. And as you release it, just relax. Relax your neck and your shoulders. Relax your jaw. Relax your back. And take another deep breath in. Hold it. And as you release that breath, relax and release any remaining tension and bring yourself present right here, right now. And let's just gently place our palms together and softly rub your fingers against your palms. Feel the tingling in your fingertips. Feel the tingling in your palms. And let's come present here, being in our bodies. Good morning. Hello, Dido. Welcome. Today we're going to talk about action and inspiration and how uh, productivity is not a function of how much we do, but the quality of what we do. So let's look at what action is. So many of us are do, and in we have this to-do list, and we have all these things that are calling our attention and distracting us from what might be an inspired experience. So one of the things that I have found really profoundly transformative for myself and for coaching clients is to stop. And globally, good morning. Good morning. I'm not sure, maybe that's Sue. Welcome. I'm so glad to see you here. Uh, what we're talking about is action and inspiration, and making a distinction between activity and inspired action. So, one of the things that I have and coach people to do is just to stop doing stuff, stop with the massive to-do list. Obviously there are things that must be done, that call to be done, and we were talking about yesterday the abundance that so many of us have in our lives, where there is so much we have to do, and we were transforming that to how much we get to do, and then we were transforming it even further to how much we're blessed to do. And this is today's talk is really looking at the blessings and allowing our own internal inspiration to drive the things that we choose to do in our lives, rather than getting caught up in the frenzy of activity. So many of us have an experience of not having enough time, or being too busy, having too much on their plate, on your plate. And what I want to look at is how many of those things are essential. How many of those things are things that you're doing because you feel you have to, where those things that you're doing own you, rather than you bringing yourself into expression through those things. And the way that we can come to be present to that inspiration and to the movement of our heart and soul is by tapping in, by slowing down, by quieting ourselves, and really looking at what are the things that we're called to do, that we're inspired to do. And so as an example, I will confess, I haven't cleaned my apartment for a long time. I have not been inspired to do that. I have been inspired to do other things. And even if I'm inspired to take a nap instead of clean, I'm okay with that. I'm allowing myself, I've been doing this experiment for a while, to allow myself to not do the even the things I think I should do, and allow myself to expand into the things that I'm inspired to do. And it was very, very, very uncomfortable at first to just stop and quiet all the judgment about I should do this, I should do that, this and this and this are calling for my attention. And I relaxed that to be able, even if it was to watch TV or watch a movie, I allowed myself that. And through a period of about, I think it was probably a month, I allowed myself to just be. And what happened was all kinds of inspiration started emerging. Like I had an impulse to do something, and activity emerged, and I have become more productive and more creative and more expressive as a result than I had been previously when I was trying to discipline myself and strong arm myself into doing all these things. And one of the things that I think is so important as we're moving into this new era where we have the opportunity to create a new humanity is to be honoring the song of our souls. And the way that we honor the song of our souls is first to be able to hear it. And so many of us fill our lives with good morning, Gail Mason. Thank you so much for being here. uh, the way that we distract ourselves with all this busyness is not ultimately productive. I was listening to this wonderful book called The Gene Keys this morning, and I would advise you or recommend that you check it out. It's awesome. It's based on the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching, which is an ancient book of wisdom, and the gene keys are mapped against the hexagrams of the I Ching, and what they're talking about is transformation and the evolution of humanity, but in very specific and interesting and compelling steps. It's magnificently written, and I was listening to it this morning, and it inspired today's talk because it was talking about uh, this the insect kingdom, and how if you're observing insects, and this is anecdotal in the book, but as you're observing insects, it looks like they're busy and they're in constant activity and constant motion. The thing about insects is that their activity is directed and collective and guided by sort of a greater unification. I see Song of Our Souls. Yes, this is all about singing our authentic song and expressing the impulse that brought us to incarnate here right now. Because what we want to do is emerge emerge from within. Gail, you're asking me for the author of the Gene Keys. I am not sure offhand. I will find it and I will respond to you with it. But I highly recommend it. Um, so it was talking about insects and how it looks like there's this frenzy of activity, and in fact that activity is guided by something larger, where these insects are typically acting in coordination with each other in some way or another, whereas our frenzied activity is just often to distract us from connecting with our authentic selves. You're really welcome, Gail. I want to share this Gene Keys book because It's so rich, and I am a lover of beautiful prose, and it is just magnificently and poetically written. So, what we're talking about is frenzied action, or action for the sake of action, and filling up our lives with all kinds of frantic activity that isn't really heart centered or driven by an impulse for pure expression. And it's scary. It was I told you I was doing this experiment with myself. It was a little scary because I thought, am I ever going to do anything? Am I ever going to find the inspiration to move out of this moment and it was a prolonged moment of inactivity and what looked from the outside as laziness. Um, and what happened was my my inner self that I had been trampling over with all kinds of imposed disciplines and dogma started feeling safer to whisper. And as I slowed down and quieted myself, I was able to hear the whispers. Yes, thank you. So the Gene Keys, you're wonderful. I don't know if that was Sue or Dido, but the book author for the Gene Keys is Richard Rudd. So Gail, you might want to check that out. I'm listening to it on Audible, but I will probably purchase the hardback book because, or the physical book, because I'm a big fan of being able to underline and go back to places and mark things up in the book. And this is one of those books that warrants it. So that's The Gene Keys by Richard Rudd. Thanks so much for providing the author there. Yes. So back to where we were about the inner spirit finding its voice, because I, for me, and I'm guessing for so many of you, what probably has happened is that with all this doingness and goals, even with the best of intentions, goals and uh, tasks and objectives for the day, one of the things that I experienced is that all of that stuff shut down my inner expression, my inner inspiration. And it took me stopping and being willing to work to move only from inspiration, which was scary because I didn't know if it would ever happen, for that voice to start whispering again. And ultimately, as you quiet yourself and you listen to that voice and you allow it to emerge, it will become more audible. It will become more expressive. And so Gail is saying you do that, she does that as well. I'm not sure whether it's you get frenzied or you slow down and listen, but it's been amazing to see what emerges with the willingness to hear underneath all the external noise. For me, I had to quiet it, and I really needed to prove to my inner self that I was going to wait until I got inspired, and not allow myself to be so caught up in all the activity. Oh, highlighting in a book, Gail. I got you. I was an educator. I had a training center for 18 years, training Adobe software, so creative software, Photoshop and Illustrator and all these different programs. So I had to learn. I was a professional learner. I still am. And so I found that highlighting helped me to remember and also to retrieve information. So we're talking about accessing this inspiration, and the process for me that I found really, really impactful and a bit threatening initially because I like to I want to be productive. I want to be doing stuff. I want to be accomplishing things. And I just needed to stop and let that go and allow this inner part of me to know that I would honor it. And so it tested me because it was a long time that I did nothing. And then it it started believing that I was for real, that I was really going to trust it, and what's emerging is nothing short of magic, and opportunities are presenting themselves that are in alignment, and I am more in alignment with myself, and as a result of that, I'm finding greater calm, I'm finding greater peace, I'm finding greater fulfillment, and this is available to you as well as you touch in and allow that voice to express itself more fully. And it starts with a whisper, and then it'll get louder, and what we want is for it to burst into full and magnificent song. So that's the inspiration for today, to source that self, that song within you. Allow yourself to stop and not get caught in the frenetic craziness of doing. Do the things that are essential, of course, and beyond that, if it's not essential, even though you have all kinds of shoulds around it, if you're not inspired to do it, allow it to fall by the wayside for until the inspiration arises. So with that, I I want to say thank you so much for being here, Gail. It was a delight to have you, and thank you, Dido. Thank you, Sue, and everybody else. Thank you so much for being here. And it's Friday, so enjoy your weekend, and please check out the amazing programming on Enlightened World Network. There's so much here, such richness, and I look forward to seeing you next week with love and compassion.